My name is Nora. I'm 29, and last month my mom sold the beach house my grandmother left me so my brother could go on a luxury vacation. She actually looked me in the eye and said, "You don't need a house. You have a good job," while he laughed and joked that he needed a break more than I needed a roof. I found out it was real when an email from the bank popped up on my screen at work. A notification about a six-figure transfer tied to the property my grandmother had put in my name. At first I thought it was a mistake, some glitch in their system. But when I opened the attached documents and saw the sale had already closed, my stomach dropped. My signature wasn't on anything. My grandmother spent years telling me that place would be my safety net, the one thing no one could take from me. And somehow my mom still managed to turn it into a plane ticket and a week at an oceanfront resort for her favorite child. While they were posting cocktails and sunsets online, I replayed every childhood memory in that house, and every time I'd been told to be understanding and let things go for family. This time, I didn't. I called my lawyer. 2 weeks later, one letter went out with 4 simple words that changed everything for them. You have 48 hours. You probably think your own family would never cross this kind of line. Stay with me until the end, and then tell me what you would have done in my place. When the email finished loading and I realized it wasn't a glitch, I grabbed my keys and drove straight to my mom's neighborhood without even closing my laptop. The whole way there, my hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I kept telling myself there had to be an explanation. Some mistake at the title company, maybe a clerical error. Then I turned down her street and saw the bright red sold sign in front of the little ranch house she'd been bragging about flipping for months. For a second I almost laughed, because it felt like the universe was trolling me with all these sold signs while the only thing I ever really cared about had just been sold out from under me. Ethan opened the front door before I could knock, barefoot, holding his phone with a half-finished drink in the other hand. He was scrolling through photos of himself on a beach, shirtless with a stupid grin. Waves behind him that weren't Oregon gray, but some bright blue resort water. "Hey, sis," he said, like we were just catching up. "You see the pictures?" Bali was insane. I needed that reset so bad after this year. I pushed past him into the living room and said, "Did Mom tell you where that money came from?" He paused for a beat, then shrugged. "It's family money, Nora. You don't even live by the coast. You live in your little downtown apartment with your spreadsheets. You've got a solid job, benefits, all that. I've been drowning. I needed a vacation." My jaw clenched. "She sold the house Grandma put in my name," I said. "My name, Ethan. That was the one thing she left me." The door to the garage opened and my mom walked in, still wearing her blazer from a showing, a stack of flyers clutched in one hand and her phone wedged between her shoulder and ear. She froze when she saw me. "I'll call you back," she muttered into the phone, hanging up before giving whoever it was a chance to respond. "Nora, honey, what are you doing here in the middle of the day?" "You sold Grandma Maggie's house," I said. I didn't bother with hello. "I got the transfer alert. I saw the closing documents. My signature is nowhere." She sighed, like I was a difficult client, not her daughter. "Okay, first of all, calm down," she said, putting her flyers on the kitchen counter. "Nobody did anything to hurt you. Your grandmother left that place so this family would be okay. You're already okay. You work in tech. You have savings. You're not the one maxing out credit cards just to keep the lights on and food in the fridge." Ethan snorted from the couch. "Yeah, she's fine, Mom. She just doesn't like when we finally catch a break." I turned to him. "A break?" That break was my inheritance. That was my safety net when the market tanks or I lose my job. It was the place Grandma promised would always be there for me. Mom stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was reasoning with a child. "Listen, your brother's been in a bad place. He's been depressed. He's been burned out. He's been working nights and still can't get ahead. I am thousands of dollars in debt from helping him and trying to keep this house. The real estate market is brutal. My commissions are up and down. The beach house was just sitting there. You never visit. Your grandmother would have wanted us to use it to help him. By selling it without telling me? I asked. By forging my consent? You didn't even call. Mom rolled her eyes, just barely. I didn't forge anything. I used the power of attorney I already had. Remember when your grandmother was sick and I took care of everything? I still had the papers. I signed as her agent and moved the funds. It's all legal. It's family. I thought you'd understand. I felt something cold settle in my chest. That power of attorney ended when she died, I said. You know that, right? You can't just keep using it like a coupon that never expires. For the first time, something flickered across her face that looked like fear. It was gone just as fast, replaced with irritation. You're overreacting, Nora. You don't need that house. You're fine. Your brother needed a break before he lost it completely. I'm drowning in debt. I will pay you back. We'll figure something out over time. Ethan nodded like that settled it. Exactly. We're family. Why are you making this weird? I looked at both of them, my mom in her blazer and my brother in his vacation t-shirt, and realized they genuinely believed I was the problem here. Every time I'd swallowed things as a kid, every time I'd been told to let him have the bigger piece, the better gift, the extra help because he needs it more, all of it landed on my shoulders at once. You didn't just sell a house, I said quietly. You showed me exactly where I stand in this family. Mom opened her mouth, probably to tell me not to be dramatic, but I was already turning toward the door. Where are you going? She called after me. I didn't look back. To talk to someone who actually respects what Grandma left me, I said. My lawyer. I didn't go back to my apartment right away. I sat in my car outside my mom's house, long enough for the engine to go cold, staring at the sold sign down the street and scrolling through old emails until I found the one I was looking for. Jasmine Ortiz, subject line. If your family ever screws up your inheritance, you know who to call. She'd written it as a joke years ago after we reconnected at a networking event, but right then it felt like a dare. Jasmine and I met freshman year in a statistics class, back when I thought I might follow my grandmother into teaching. She'd gone on to law school and ended up specializing in consumer and financial fraud in Portland. I worked with data. She worked with paperwork that could ruin people's lives if they were careless. I hit call before I could talk myself out of it. She picked up on the second ring. Hey, stranger. Everything okay? My mom sold my grandmother's beach house, I said. My voice sounded flat, even to me. And she used an old power of attorney, didn't tell me, and used the money to send my brother to Bali and pay her credit cards. I just saw the closing docs. My name is nowhere. There was a pause, the kind where you can feel someone switch from friend mode to professional mode. Do you have the trust documents? She asked. Any will? Any paperwork your grandmother set up before she passed? Yeah, I said. Grandma Maggie kept everything in this blue binder. Tabs, sticky notes, all of it. It's in my apartment. Good, Jasmine said. Grab it and the bank email. Meet me at the taco place on Burnside in an hour. We'll go through everything. An hour later, I was sliding into a booth across from her, the blue binder on the table between us next to a plastic basket of chips and salsa. She'd come straight from court, still in a navy blazer, hair pulled back, eyes sharp in a way I'd always admired. Okay, she said, flipping the binder open. Walk me through what you know. I told her about the email alert, the 6-figure transfer, the sale I never signed. I told her about my mom's explanation, about the power of attorney from when Grandma was sick, about how she swore it was all legal because we're family. Jasmine didn't interrupt much. Her pen moved fast over her legal pad, her eyes scanning the trust documents my grandmother had painstakingly labeled. Here, she said finally, tapping a page. This is the living trust your grandmother set up. See this section? It names you as the sole beneficiary of the beach house and the investment account after her death. That means once she passed, this trust became irrevocable. Your mom doesn't get to just decide to liquidate assets because life is hard. She flipped to another tab and pulled out the power of attorney. And this, she said, was valid while your grandmother was alive and incapacitated. Right here, it says the authority terminates upon her death. Your mom using this to sign off on a sale after your grandmother died is not just shady, it's fraud. She misrepresented her authority to the title company and the buyer. My stomach twisted. So, she didn't just cross a line emotionally, I said quietly. She actually broke the law. Jasmine nodded. She used expired authority to sell an asset that legally belonged to you, then redirected the proceeds for her own benefit and your brother's. That's misappropriation of trust property. It's civil fraud at minimum, maybe more, depending on how deep this goes and what the DA feels like doing. But let's focus on what we can control. She pulled the bank email closer and jotted down the transaction ID. The sale proceeds went into her account? Yeah, I said. The alert showed the escrow company wired the funds into an account with her name. I checked my own accounts just to be sure. Nothing hit mine. Jasmine leaned back, thinking. Okay, here's what we're going to do, she said. We send her a demand letter. It will lay out exactly what she did. The terms of the trust, the expiration of the power of attorney, the sale, the transfer of funds, the use of that money for non-beneficiary purposes. We give her 48 hours from receipt to either return the full amount into a separate account we control, or sign an agreement accepting liability with a concrete repayment plan secured by her remaining assets. 48 hours? I repeated. It sounded brutal and also, in a dark way, satisfying. Why so fast? Because she already spent a chunk of it, Jasmine said. Vacation, credit cards, whatever. The longer we wait, the more disappears, the more leverage we lose. 48 hours sends a message. It tells her this isn't a family squabble, it's a legal emergency. If she ignores it or refuses, we file a civil suit for breach of fiduciary duty, fraud, conversion, whatever sticks best. We can ask for the value of the house, interest, and attorney's fees. Given her debt, that could push her into bankruptcy. I stared at the neat lines of my grandmother's handwriting in the margins of the trust documents, little notes like, for Nora's future and, must protect this. My throat tightened. If I do this, I said, I'm basically blowing up what's left of my family. Jasmine softened, just a little. Nora, she already lit the match when she sold your house, she said. You're just deciding whether to stand there and let it burn you, or whether you're going to put the fire out. You don't have to make this decision to please anyone. You make it to honor what your grandmother wanted and to protect yourself. I took a breath and felt something inside me click into place, like a lock turning. I'd spent my whole life swallowing unfairness in the name of keeping the peace. The peace was gone. Send the letter, I said. 48 hours. After that, we go to court. Jasmine smiled without humor and pulled a printed template from her folder, already typing my details into the top. Good, she said. Then let's give your mother and brother a deadline they can't laugh off. 2 weeks later, Jasmine slid a printed copy of the letter across her desk to me before she hit send on the email version. It was 3 pages of calm, precise language that somehow felt sharper than any shout. It laid out everything in black and white. The terms of my grandmother's trust, my status as sole beneficiary of the beach house, the fact that my grandmother's death terminated my mom's authority under the power of attorney, the dates of the sale and transfer, the amounts, even screenshots of my brother's vacation posts to show where some of the money had gone. At the bottom, in bold, was the deadline. Recipient has 48 hours from confirmed receipt of this notice to remit the full amount of the sale proceeds into the designated account or execute a signed repayment agreement secured by current assets. Failure to comply will result in immediate legal action. Once I send this, you can't unring the bell, Jasmine said quietly. I swallowed and nodded. Ring it. She clicked send. Certified mail went out the same afternoon. My mom got the email first. I was at my desk the next morning, staring at a spreadsheet that might as well have been static, when my phone lit up with her name. I let it ring twice before answering. Nora, what is this? She snapped. No hello. Her voice was high and thin, the way it got when deals fell through and she needed someone to blame. I just got some ridiculous letter from your lawyer talking about fraud and lawsuits. You're threatening to drag your own mother into court? I'm asking you to return what you stole, I said, keeping my voice even. You sold a house that wasn't yours to sell using authority you didn't have. That's not a misunderstanding, Mom. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Stole? My God, listen to yourself. It's family money. Your grandmother wanted that house to take care of us. I've been drowning, Nora. Do you think I enjoy being behind on every bill, getting calls from collectors, watching your brother fall apart because he can't catch a break? So you fixed it by committing fraud, I said. By emptying out the one thing she left me? She ignored that. You're fine, she insisted. You have a salary, you have a 401k, you have health insurance. Your brother has nothing. I've been using credit cards just to keep him afloat. That trip was supposed to clear his head so he could start fresh. And yes, I paid down some cards because I was about to lose my mind. I did what I had to do for this family. And now you and some stranger in a blazer think you'll scare me with threats? She's not a stranger. She's my lawyer, I said. And she's not threatening you. She's outlining consequences. You had 48 hours to start making this right. 48 hours, my mom repeated, spitting the words out. What do you think I'm sitting on? A secret vault of cash. Most of the money is gone, okay? Resorts and plane tickets don't refund everything, and the cards were already past due when I paid them. I can't just magically give you $100 and something thousand back by Friday. My chest tightened, but not from sympathy. It was like watching someone admit they'd burned your house down but expected a hug because they were cold. Then you shouldn't have spent it, I said. I didn't force you to sell anything. You chose to. You chose him, again, at my expense, again. This time, there are laws involved. She went quiet for a second, then shifted tactics. You are really going to do this to your own mother? She asked, voice wobbling. Take me to court, ruin my credit, drag our name through the mud? Over what? Some empty building on the coast your grandmother left sitting there like a monument? I am your family, Nora. That girl in the suit isn't. When she's moved on to her next client, I'm still the one who carried you for 9 months. I had heard that line my whole life, pulled out whenever she needed me to shut up and fall back in line. This time, it just made me tired. You used that building as your personal ATM, I said. You didn't talk to me. You didn't ask. You assumed I'd do what I always do and swallow it because we're family. I'm not doing that anymore. A second later, another notification flashed on my screen. Ethan texting. Mom kept talking in my ear, but I glanced at the messages. Seriously? You sent Mom some legal crap? You're losing it. Then another. You know the money's gone, right? It was barely enough to cover stuff anyway. I needed that trip. I scrolled back up, seeing photos I'd already muted. Infinity pools, cocktails with tiny umbrellas, expensive headphones in first class, all of it suddenly looking like crime scene evidence instead of memories. Look, my mom was saying, I can give you something. I can start with a few thousand next month, maybe more after I close the Parker listing. We can set up some kind of plan. I'm not saying I won't pay you back. I'm just saying this 60-second countdown doomsday letter thing is insane. Cancel the lawsuit. We'll handle this like adults. Adults don't hide sales contracts from each other, I said. This isn't a game show. The 48 hours aren't my idea of drama. They're my lawyer's way of giving you a chance before the judge gets involved. If you're serious about paying me back, talk to her. Sign what she sends. Put it in writing with collateral. Otherwise, we go to court. Collateral? She repeated, outraged. You want to take my house now? You want to take the roof over your brother's head? I didn't say anything about taking it, I replied. But if you can't pay what you owe, the court will look at what you have. That's how this works for everyone, not just strangers. You don't get a different system because you're my mother. She started to cry then, loud, dramatic sobs that used to tear me apart when I was younger. You're heartless, she choked out. I can't believe I raised someone who would do this to me. After everything I've sacrificed, this is how you repay me. I closed my eyes for a second, feeling the old guilt rise and then fade as quickly as it came. You didn't raise me alone, I said quietly. Grandma did a lot of the heavy lifting. She's the one who left me something, and I'm finally acting like it matters. If you want to fix this, call Jasmine. If not, I'll see you in court. I hung up before she could answer. More texts from Ethan rolled in, alternating between jokes, insults, and half-hearted attempts to guilt me into backing off. I set the phone face down on my desk and looked at the blue binder still sitting there, my grandmother's handwriting peeking out from under the cover. For the first time since this started, I let myself imagine my mom not as a victim of her circumstances, but as an adult who had made choice after choice until she ended up here. She decided my brother's vacation mattered more than my inheritance. Now she was about to find out what it felt like when someone else finally said no. The 48 hours passed without a call from Jasmine saying my mom had done anything, so I called her instead. She picked up with a sigh that told me everything. She had another lawyer look at the letter, Jasmine said. He replied that your mother disputes any wrongdoing and believes the sale was within her authority as your grandmother's agent. No offer, no repayment, nothing. I stared out my apartment window at the drizzle. So she's doubling down, I said. She is, Jasmine replied, which means we're done asking nicely. Next step is filing the lawsuit. Once we do, she'll have deadlines she can't guilt trip or ignore. My stomach turned, but under it was something solid. File it, I said. Fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, all of it. I want the court to see exactly what she did. Okay, Jasmine said. I'll draft the complaint and have it served. But if we're going to war, I want everything. Screenshots, texts, emails, anything that shows what she knew and when. I thought of Ethan's messages, the casual way he'd admitted the money was gone and that he needed the trip. I can get more, I said. From Ethan, too. He knows more than he's saying. Jasmine paused. Then talk to him one more time, she said. In person, if you can. People get very honest when they think they're still winning. That evening, I drove to my mom's house. Ethan's car was in the driveway, music thumping faintly. He opened the door with a frown. Wow, you're brave showing up here, he said. Mom's been wrecked since your little legal grenade. Is she home? I asked. No, showing a townhouse, he said. Why? Good, I said. I came to talk to you. We ended up in the kitchen, him leaning against the counter, me at the table where I used to do homework while Grandma corrected my math. If this is about you suing Mom, I already told you, he said. It's pathetic. You have everything, and you're acting like we robbed you at gunpoint. I ignored that. How long did you really know about the house? I asked. Not just that Mom was thinking about it, but that she was actually selling it using Grandma's old power of attorney. His jaw tightened. What does that matter? It matters, I said. You don't just wake up with first-class tickets. She talked to you. He exhaled. She told me months ago she was trying to unlock the house, he admitted. Said Grandma put everything in your name because you're the responsible one, but that you don't even live there and don't appreciate what it could do for the rest of us. She said she had papers, that she had authority as Grandma's agent, that it wasn't really wrong, just bending things. And that didn't sound bad to you at all? I asked. He shrugged. I asked if you knew. She said you'd just make it complicated, that you always think worst case. She said she'd handle it and talk to you when things calmed down. Then the sale went through, the money hit, and she told me to pack a bag. He gave a short, bitter laugh. I figured if she was willing to go that far, it must be legit enough. I'm not a lawyer, Nora. I just wanted out for a week. Did she ever say the power of attorney might not be valid anymore? That Grandma being dead changed anything? He hesitated, torn between protecting her and protecting himself. She said something like, technically these things have timelines, but nobody checks that closely. He finally muttered. Said the title company just wants signatures and clean numbers, not a lecture on when Grandma died. She joked half of real estate is knowing which rules actually matter. I thought she was just venting. The words landed like a gavel in my head. You realize that's her admitting she knew it was wrong, I said. She didn't accidentally grab the wrong form. She gambled no one would look. Ethan flinched. What do you want me to say? He snapped. That I should have stopped her? Called you. I didn't. I wanted the trip. I wanted a break from feeling like a loser every time I opened my bank app. So I shut up. You happy? No, I said. But I am clear. I pulled out my phone and opened our text thread, scrolling to his messages about the money being gone and him needing the trip. I'm suing her, I said. That's not a threat. It's happening. And if she drags you into it, if you stonewall, that gets ugly. You can keep pretending you're just a passenger, or you can help fix it. How? He asked. By telling the truth, I said. By giving my lawyer your messages, screenshots, anything that shows she knew the POA was expired and that she sold the house anyway. That she told you I'd say no, so she cut me out. If you cooperate, Jasmine can keep the focus on her choices. If you don't, and this blows up bigger, I can't promise a judge will see you as just an innocent bystander. He sank into a chair, rubbing his face. You're asking me to testify against Mom, he said. I'm asking you to stop lying for her, I corrected. You can still love her, but she made choices that hurt you too. You're the one stuck with her mess when she can't get approved for anything. Do you really think she'll start making better decisions if no one ever holds her accountable? He sat there for a long beat, then looked up. If I send you the screenshots, he said slowly, and tell your lawyer what I told you, can she keep me out of the worst of it? She can make it clear you're cooperating, I said, that you didn't sign anything and didn't profit long term. But I'm not going to lie for you. I'm done being the only one who takes the hit. Ethan swallowed and nodded. Fine, he said. I'll send them. Not because I'm suddenly on your side, but because I'm tired of feeling like I'm in the middle of a car crash I can't stop. On my way out, my phone buzzed. A stream of images and screenshots from Ethan forwarded without comment. In the driveway, I forwarded everything to Jasmine with one line. He knew. She knew. Use what you need. For the first time since it started, I didn't feel like I was the one blowing up the family. I felt like I'd finally stepped out of the blast zone and handed the truth to someone who knew exactly what to do with it. By the time we got a court date, the story didn't feel like mine anymore. It belonged to the caption on the filings, the docket number the clerk called. Jasmine sat beside me at counsel table with a slim binder of exhibits. Across the aisle, my mom sat next to her attorney, jaw tight. Ethan hovered behind her in the first row, swallowed by a too-big jacket. When the judge came in and we all stood, my knees trembled once and then steadied. This wasn't a family fight I could be guilted out of. This was a room where facts were supposed to matter. Jasmine started with the trust. She walked the judge through the language like it was a recipe. As the court can see, she said, tapping a highlighted paragraph, upon Ms. Rowan's death, the seaside property and the associated investment account became irrevocably held for the benefit of her granddaughter, my client, Nora Lane. The defendant, Ms. Linda Lane, is not a beneficiary under this trust. She had no ownership interest in the property after Ms. Rowan's death. My mom's lawyer tried to argue that my grandmother intended the house to help the whole family, that she always talked about wanting everyone taken care of. The judge listened, then pointed to the page. Intent is expressed here, he said. The beneficiary is clearly identified. Jasmine moved on to the power of attorney. Your Honor, this document granted Ms. Lane authority to act on her mother's behalf while Ms. Rowan was alive and incapacitated, she said. Here, in the termination clause, it explicitly states that this authority ends upon the principal's death. Nevertheless, Ms. Lane used this expired document over a year after Ms. Rowan passed to sign off on the sale. The judge looked over his glasses at my mom. Ms. Lane, did you understand that your authority under this power of attorney ended when your mother died? My mom's lawyer jumped in, saying she wasn't a legal expert, that it was an honest misunderstanding. Jasmine stood. If it please the court, we'll let Ms. Lane explain in her own words. On the stand, my mom repeated her story. The bills, Ethan struggling, my grandmother saying family comes first. She claimed she thought the power of attorney still worked as long as the house was in the trust. I wasn't trying to steal from my daughter, she said. I was trying to keep us afloat. Jasmine waited, then approached with one printed page. Do you recognize this text message? She asked. My mom frowned, then nodded. Yes. Dated 3 weeks before closing, Jasmine said. I'll read one line. You wrote, technically these power of attorney things have timelines, but nobody checks that closely. Title just wants signatures and clean numbers, not a lecture on when Grandma died. Did I read that correctly? My mom's eyes flicked toward Ethan. I was venting, she said. I didn't mean... Did you send that message? Jasmine cut in. Yes, my mom whispered. So at the time you signed the sale documents, you knew there were timelines on the authority you were using, Jasmine said, and you chose to proceed anyway, expecting no one would check. My mom didn't answer. The silence said enough. Jasmine called me next. I testified about summers at the beach house, about my grandmother's blue binder and her notes saying, for Nora's future. I described opening the bank email, confronting my mom, hearing her say I didn't need the house because I had a good job. Jasmine entered Ethan's screenshots. The bragging vacation texts, the admission that the money was gone, the messages where he repeated my mom's line that I'd just make it complicated. Ethan took the stand too. He looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him, but he answered. Yes, my mom had joked about title companies not checking dates. Yes, she said I'd say no if she asked. Yes, she knew the house was supposed to be mine. When my mom's lawyer tried to paint him as clueless, Ethan surprised me. I might not know the law, he said, but I knew if it was really no big deal, Mom would have told Nora up front. She didn't. After closing arguments, the judge stepped out, then came back with a decision that sounded like a verdict on years of history. He found my mom had breached her fiduciary duty, misused expired authority, and converted trust property for personal use. He quoted my grandmother's trust out loud, emphasizing that the plan had always been clear. Accordingly, this court orders that Ms. Linda Lane is liable to Ms. Nora Lane in the amount of the full fair market value of the seaside property at the time of sale, plus interest from the date of closing, plus reasonable attorney's fees and costs, he said. The number he read made my mom's hand fly to her mouth. Then he added that her using the proceeds for her debts and her son's vacation did not turn this into a harmless family misunderstanding. It remained misappropriation of my assets. My mom's lawyer asked about payment plans and hardship, about protecting her primary residence. The judge explained, patient but firm, that if she couldn't pay, enforcement and possibly bankruptcy would follow. Her house, her accounts, her commissions, all of it could be reached like anyone else's. In the hallway afterward, she rounded on me, eyes red and wild. "Are you happy?" she hissed. "You just ruined your own mother. I will lose my house. I will lose everything. And it'll be because my daughter decided money mattered more than family." I met her gaze and didn't look away. "You didn't lose everything because I went to court," I said. "You lost it when you sold something that wasn't yours and assumed I'd let it slide. I didn't make you max out credit cards. I didn't make you send Ethan on a 5-star trip. Those were your choices." Ethan stood a few steps away, looking between us like he finally understood there was no safe middle. "Nora, what happens now?" he asked quietly. "Now I enforce the judgment," I said. "The system does what it does. You keep working. I keep working. Mom talks to a bankruptcy lawyer. We all live with what we did." My mom shook her head like she couldn't process that I was calm. "You'll regret this," she whispered. "One day when I'm gone and you realize you destroyed our family over a beach house." I thought of my grandmother's careful notes, of every time I'd been pushed aside because I could handle it. "Grandma trusted me to protect what she left," I said. "I'd regret it more if I let you erase her wishes because you couldn't stop treating me like an emergency fund. This isn't about a beach house. It's about you thinking my boundaries were optional." Jasmine touched my elbow and we walked toward the exit, the judgment in her bag feeling heavy and final. Behind us, my mom's voice rose into a choked curse, but for once, I didn't turn back. I'd spent my life orbiting her crises. For the first time, I was walking straight ahead toward a future she didn't control. In the months after the judgment, the fallout came in waves. First were the letters. Thick envelopes started showing up at my mom's house from creditors and attorneys. Each one another reminder that the court's decision was not a bad dream she could ignore. When she couldn't make the payments the judgment required, the conversation shifted from how will she pay to what will be sold. Her house went on the market a few months later, not with her smiling face on the sign this time, but with a bank's logo. The woman who used to brag about closing difficult deals was suddenly the one being forced out of a home she thought she'd never lose. Ethan texted me the day the movers came, sending a photo of the empty living room with the caption, "This is really happening." I didn't reply. I didn't gloat either. It just felt like gravity finally doing what it always does. My mom ended up in a small rental across town, a beige apartment in a building with thin walls and a strict no pets policy. Her credit was wrecked, her cards frozen, her commissions garnished. The life she'd built on maxed-out promises and borrowed time collapsed down to exactly what she could actually afford, which wasn't much, without someone else to quietly fix things for her. Ethan took on more hours at the warehouse to cover his share of the new rent. DJ gigs became side money, not an excuse to avoid real work. He stopped posting about vacations and started posting about overtime and cheap dinners with coworkers. We weren't suddenly close, but every so often he'd send a late-night text that sounded more like the kid I grew up with and less like the golden child I'd spent my 20s resenting. "I get it more now," he wrote once. "What it means when people say someone always pays. Turns out it was you for a long time. I'm sorry for that." I stared at that message for a long time before answering. "I'm glad you're starting to see it," I replied. "That's your work, not mine. Keep going." On my side of town, life didn't magically turn into a fairy tale. I still worked my 9 to 5, still dealt with deadlines and meetings and days where the coffee wasn't strong enough. But the judgment money, once it started to come in through structured payments and seized assets, didn't feel like a lottery win. It felt like something my grandmother had tried to give me twice, and I had finally managed to hold on to. I didn't rush to buy another beach house. Instead, I sat down with a financial planner and set up an investment account in my grandmother's name, a fund I could grow slowly and use partly for my future, partly for something she would have loved. On Saturdays, when the weather wasn't completely miserable, I started hosting little workshops in a community room at the library. It started with a couple friends who'd heard what happened and wanted to know how to keep their own families from blowing up their finances. Then friends of friends showed up. Then a few strangers who'd seen a flyer. I talked about basics: what a trust is, why you should read what you sign, how to set boundaries around money with people you love. I told them, in general terms, about a grandmother who'd tried to protect her granddaughter and a mother who thought those protections were optional. I watched people nod, cry, laugh in recognition. It was the closest thing to healing I'd felt in a long time. A year after the court date, a therapist the court had recommended for family reconciliation reached out to see if I wanted to schedule a joint session with my mom and Ethan. I almost said no on instinct. Then I thought about all the nights I'd lain awake wondering if I was the villain in some version of this story my mom told herself. I made the appointment, not for her, but for me. In the session, my mom did what she always does at first. She cried. She talked about the bills, the fear, the way she felt abandoned by everyone, including her own mother. She said I'd turned my back on her when she needed me most. For the first time, I didn't take that as a cue to rush in and reassure her. I let her words sit there, then told my version out loud, in front of a neutral third party who didn't owe either of us anything. I talked about being the responsible one, the one who always got less because I could handle it, the one no one thought to protect, while they scrambled to save my brother from every consequence. I talked about the house, the trust, the blue binder, the sick feeling when I saw those sale papers without my name. When I finished, my mom didn't suddenly transform into a humble, enlightened person, but she did go quiet, and for the first time, she said, "I knew you'd be okay, so I didn't think about what it would do to you. I just thought about how scared I was." It wasn't enough to erase what she'd done. It was enough for me to understand that her selfishness came from weakness, not from some grand plan to destroy me. I told her I forgave her for my sake, not because what she did was forgivable in the usual sense, but because I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life letting her choices live rent-free in my head. Forgiveness, for me, didn't look like moving her into my apartment or co-signing her next lease. It looked like boundaries. It looked like holiday texts instead of holidays together, like answering some calls and letting others go to voicemail. It looked like sending her information about credit counseling and then stepping back so she could decide whether to use it. I stopped trying to fix her. I started choosing myself on purpose. If there's anything I took from all of this, besides a stack of legal documents and a permanently complicated relationship with the word family, it's this: love and accountability are not opposites. You can care about someone and still refuse to let them steal from you, lie to you, or rewrite your future to clean up their past. You can honor the people who tried to protect you by finally protecting yourself. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do, even when it looks like revenge from the outside, is to stop being the person everyone assumes will quietly absorb the damage. Maybe you've never had your mother sell your house to fund your brother's vacation, but if you've ever felt like the responsible one who keeps paying the bill for everyone else's mistakes, you know a piece of this story. If you were in my place, would you have sent that 48-hour letter? Or would you have walked away and tried to forget the house ever existed?